Hello, hi, how are you? Welcome back. My name is Ari, and it's time for Dungeons of Books again. Now, big excitement. This is the old board. We've got a new board. The new board's too big to hold up, which is why I'm holding up the old board. But we're gonna get into that in just a second. First, we need to go over the prompts from last month and if I read them or not. So first roll was an arc. For that I read Obsidian and I did finish it. Second was a Jar of Doom pool because Jar of Doom happens every month basically. Jar of Doom pulled me Dark Souls, which was pretty awful in the end, but I did read it. Next roll was a BIPOC author, which I read Everlasting Rose for, finishing out that series. It was okay. Next up was a Goodreads choice pick, and for that I read Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and it was pretty good. Like, I don't even like that genre, but Taylor Jenkins Reid is such a good author. She made the book good. And the final roll, because I only had 5, was Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson for a randomize your TBR, and this was good. I understand why everybody's putting this on their favorite books of the year. So, I read all 5 books. We're good to go. Yay! Let's move into the rules. I am going to do a walkthrough of the new board and explain the new rules because it has changed quite a considerable bit from last year, but there will be timestamps, so if you don't want to see the new rules and just get into the rules, you can fast forward and skip over all of the rules. But onto the board. Alright, so this is the 2022 board. Instead of drawing something out myself, I took a Pathfinder set and created a basic dungeon. It's a cave. So, as you can see, this doesn't have any prompts, and that is because the prompts are changeable. So this is a good time to say, if you have prompts that you think I should add, then please leave them down in the comments. I will periodically make new prompts and add them to my extended list. So all of the prompts are exchangeable except for 2. As in last year, I am going to pick these prompts by rolling a d20. So if I roll a 1, I continue with the Jar of Doom prompt, and if I roll a 20, I can choose whatever book that I want to read. It's a free choice. The rest of the prompts are in this bag, and the colors don't mean anything other than the red ones for Jar of Doom and free choice will always be the only red ones, just in case I lose them in the bag and I need to find them quickly. The rest of them are a rainbow of colors because this board is pretty boring. They're all mixed up in a bag, and I'm going to randomly draw 18 of them and put them on the board really quick. Alright, and there is our board in 20 prompts. So, I'm going to go ahead and start rolling, and as I roll and I take one of these prompts, I am going to replace it with a different prompt. That way we have a little bit more interaction with the board this year, and I don't have the same 20-ish prompts that I had for the entire year as I did last year. I have ordered a new die, a new D20, because this one is very hard to see on camera, but it hasn't come in yet because I got it custom made from someone on Etsy, and apparently that somebody was in Sweden and I didn't realize that. So we're using the old dice for 1 month, and then I'll have a much more visible dice going forward for the rest of the year. And all of the other rules, as far as if I roll the same number twice in a single month, means I have to roll again. All of that is the same.
So let's get into this and see how month 1 goes.
Role number 1 is an author with initials and then last name. So to explain this better, I guess like most authors just have their names, right? So you've got like Sarah J. Maas, Brandon Sanderson, etc., etc. But every occasion you'll get an author who uses initials as their first name instead of a first name. So like V.E. Schwab is a good example of that. And this one just wants me to pick one of those authors. And I thought I had more books by authors with initials as their first name. And I do have some, but just absolutely nothing that I like wanted to or plan to read in February. So I'm going to use this prompt to kind of like forward one of my yearly goals, and that is to complete or continue series. So I am going to read Reckoning of Fallen Gods by R.A. Salvatore. And this is the second book in the Coven series. So, going to put this as my first book. This is not really something I plan to read this month, but it looks like I'm going to be reading it, plans or not. Okay, role number 2. I got this prompt, which is I don't remember or ever knew the premise of the book. And there's plenty of books that I own that I don't know the premise of, or if I ever do it, I don't know it anymore. And for this one, I'm gonna grab an old book of the month book called Liberty by Caitlin Greenidge. Now, what is this about? I have no idea. I may have known, I guarantee you I read the premise before I picked it up, but this was book of the month for April of 2021, and that's pretty much the last time I ever thought about this book. So let's read the premise of this together. Coming of age as a free-born black girl in Reconstruction-era Brooklyn, Liberty Sampson saw too well that her purposeful mother, a practicing physician, has a vision for their future together. Liberty is to go to medical school and practice alongside her, but Liberty is drawn more to music than science, feels stifled by her mother's choices, and hungry for something else. Okay, so contemporary, and it looks like it's probably going to deal a lot with racism and disappointing your parents. So there we go. I know the premise now, but we're gonna read this one. Next roll, I rolled a 20. Usually I roll ones, but hey, 20's good. And this is free choice. And let me tell you that free choice sounds great. And usually I put like 5-star predictions in here or something like that. But I can really choose any book I want. And given the freedom to choose any book I want, I struggle. As far as 5-star predictions, I read 2 of my 5-star predictions in January, so I'm like way ahead on the year for 5-star predictions, and there's nothing that really fits into February on my 5-star predictions that I want to read. So I'm just going with a book that I got from the library that I have really no videos or anything to read it for, but it's something that I've been interested in. And that is Root Magic by Eden Royce. Now, this is so outside of my like norm. This is fantasy, but it's middle grade. And I rarely read middle grade and usually don't like it, but this is about Gullah Geechee culture and root magic, and it takes place in Charleston, South Carolina, where I went to college, and it's always sounded interesting every time somebody's talked about it, but I don't really have any particular video ideas that this fits into. So I'm just going to read this for the enjoyment of wanting to read something about root magic and stick it in my free choice slot. So the next book I rolled a 13 again, which is a double, which means I add another book to my rolls. So 6 at least instead of 5. We'll see if I roll any more doubles, hopefully not. But the prompt for this was a book with A in the title. So literally the letter A as a word. So I hope that makes sense. If not, here's an example. And I'm reading A Lesson in Thorns by Sierra Simone. February seems like a good time to read romance, and this is one of the 22 books that I want to read in 2022. This is an interesting choice for me because I'm pretty sure it's contemporary romance. Actually, no. I know why I picked this because I don't think this is contemporary romance. I think this is contemporary smut. There is no romance. It's just a bunch of high school friends who are in their adults, like 30s, 40s maybe, and they're banging each other. And I know there's some sort of plot that involves a library, but I don't really know much other than it's just a bunch of people having orgies, and there's no actual like romance or falling in love kind of plot line. This is just smut. So this is what I'm going to read for this prompt. Alright, roll number 5, and I rolled a 16, which got us a book off of someone else's TBR. And I'm recording this early enough. It's not like super early. Today is the 28th, so there's not that many more days left in the month, but not a lot of people have put up their TBRs for February. So I'm like, well, okay. So I went through the TBRs of the people I follow. There wasn't anything that really stood out as something I wanted to read, but I had some ideas that I could fall back on if I absolutely like needed them. And then I started going through like random people I've never seen their videos of TBR because I had a specific book in mind that I figured a shit ton of people would put on their TBRs for this month. because it's a new release and I finally found it. So I found a TBR game on a channel called Rise Reading Corner, and she plays Jenga. I will link her video down in the comments below. But House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J Maas comes out in February and I pre-ordered it. So I know people were gonna put this on their TBR. I just couldn't find it until Rye here helped me out, and yeah, House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J Maas is what I'm putting in for this one. So there you go. I'm thinking of doing just like a reading vlog for this book specifically. So if you're interested in seeing that, leave a comment below and then let me know if you want it spoiler filled or spoiler free, because it'll be up like the week it comes out. So let me know that down in the comments below, and let's get to what I hope is the last roll. For my final roll, I rolled a 6, which gave us the prompt Shelf 2. And my TBR is divided into 3 shelves. Shelf 1 is fantasy and sci-fi. Shelf 2 is nonfiction and kind of like miscellaneous. And then shelf 3 is book box books. Shelf 2 means I need to pick something nonfiction or just like miscellaneous, and I went with nonfiction, and I am going to be reading Twisted, The Tangled History of Black Hair Culture by Emma Debris. This talks about Black women's struggle with their hair and their culture. White people want to force white hairstyles on Black people when it damages their hair considerably to try to straighten such kinky curly hair. So I'm going to be reading this. It works because it's Black History Month in February. I'm going to try to read a whole lot of Black authors, and this will just be one of them that I am guaranteed to read this month. And that is everything for my Dungeons of Books TBR. Outside of that, as I just said, I'm going to try to be reading a lot of books by Black author this month. I also have my ARC video that comes out every month. I think I have 3 ARCs that come out this month. That'll be up around the middle of the month. And then I'll do some other vlogs that you'll see when they come out. They'll be surprises. Some of the books on this TBR go into those vlogs, so if you want to try to guess what those vlogs are, not all of them belong to vlogs. Some of them belong to vlogs, and I'm not going to tell you what those vlogs are about until they come out. So if you want to try to guess which books belong to the vlogs or what vlogs I'm doing, leave it in the comments. We'll see how sneaky I'm actually being, or if I'm being sneaky at all. Anyway, that is it for my February TBR. I will catch you in the next video. Bye!